and it was only like, a little bit done. All the music and the words were already in place, and there was some clips in certain places, and then I just had to fill a lot of it. But I was like, well, fuck, I shot footage all summer. I probably have a lot of stuff,
Yeah.
and I didn't have a lot of van build video when I originally started that. So then I was actually able to put in some clips of like building the van, which made it nice.
The dude, like I said, you saw it went live, right?
Oh yeah, we're live.
Did it tell you? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Um, I'm gonna share it on my YouTube community real quick. Um, yeah, like I said, the B-roll was really good. Like you thought it all out, or you just took it and you're like, I'll have a use for this eventually. Like the hip thing.
Yeah, so the hip thing, that was when I actually did have hip surgery. And
Yeah, I figured.
I used that in the machine. I used that in a like best of 2017 video
Hmm.
at the end of the year. Kind of a cool video. Like it was basically me like crutching around on the street and then sitting down, and I would like scroll through my phone, and then it would like zoom into the phone onto like whatever clip I was showing, and then it would get bigger. And then that was in there as well. There was a lot of hip surgery B-roll that I could have used, and then the clip of my like me laying on the ground, that was actually last year at the Taj.
Oh, so that wasn't the hip crash.
No, no, the hip, there wasn't really a hip crash. It was kind of
Okay.
just like a long-term issue. There was definitely a couple crashes that like were very hard to walk afterwards, where I started realizing like, okay, this is a problem. And that was actually the biggest one. Was a it was flip super seat on the, I did it for like a Slater bike signature color video, and it was a flip super seat on the big step up at Woodward, the one that's outside, like
Hmm.
by the mega ramp. Did flip super seat on that, and when I landed, it like put me into the splits, and could barely even like walk, and still had to send it again so I could get the clip. So did it, and then couldn't hardly walk for like 2 weeks, and then scheduled surgery I think for like a month later.
How long
But
was the recovery on it?
so it's a weight bearing injury, or like it's a weight bearing surgery. So I had on December 7th of 2017, and then I had the second surgery on December 28th of 2017. So there was definitely 2 weeks where I was crutching both legs for sure.
Yeah.
And then was doing physical therapy until I left to do contests in Europe at the beginning of April. So it was
That's
it was a
crazy.
solid probably like 2.5 months to get back to riding, I would say.
Yeah.
2 months. But it's kind of like you get back into it whenever you can. It's getting the it's more like you take the longer time to get everything actually working properly. And then once I went to Europe for 2.5 months, shit wasn't working properly anymore.
Yeah. And you probably didn't really realize it until later on. You're like, oh, this isn't working right.
Yeah, no, stuff still, obviously we still have problems, so
Hey, did you see
it is what
Chad
it is.
bump his head?
Yeah, that doesn't look good. I was gonna
I was
say, I
just
was like,
gonna,
where's the helmet?
yeah, I was just gonna say, so I get that question a lot. So like, what do you do when you can't ride? So like Chad's probably gonna take a few days, maybe a week off the bike, right? You took 2 months off during your surgery. What do you do? How do you keep yourself occupied?
I mean, usually when I'm hurt, that's like the only time that I ever actually go to the gym. If I hurt an arm or something, then I'll go to the gym, do leg stuff, or vice versa. But I've been pretty good, knock on wood, like actual track record of like that's the hip surgery is the only thing that ever like put me out for a while. I broke a wrist one time
Mhm.
and went to the went to the gym, but then also like for me it's just like, I got so much other stuff going on. Taking 2 weeks, 3 weeks off riding my bike is not an abnormal thing for me. Like it's pretty normal for me to like take that kind of time off just because I'm busy.
Yeah.
So 6 weeks, for like an injury wouldn't be that bad because I'd have so much other work I could get done. So if I had an injury, it would just be like, okay, well, that just takes one thing off my plate that I'm doing and moves
It
it to the
just makes
side.
forces you to put biking on the side and work on other
Yeah.
things.
Yeah, exactly. Like instead of being like, revolving your schedule around, oh, I got to go ride Woodward Tuesday and Thursday,
Yeah.
we just we just don't ride Woodward Tuesday and Thursday, and then we have 2 more days. 2 more days to get stuff done. So to me it's not always a bad thing to take time off. And then also like I took off all summer from riding my hardtail
Yeah.
and just rode my downhill bike. And then when I started riding my hardtail again, before we went and filmed all the YouTube videos, I feel like when I got back on my bike, I was better than I was
A lot
two
better.
months
Yeah.
ago. Yeah, sometimes I feel like a long break. When I come back, I'm better. I don't know if that's supposed to be like that, but I felt like that with everything I do.
Mine, it's usually like not a long break. There's a happy, maybe a week, I'll feel pretty good getting back on, but anything longer, or 2 weeks or a month, I feel like I forgot everything. Um, but do you, so like you play guitar and do all these other things, right? Did you learn those during off times? You know what I mean? Like I always tell people to focus on building a different skill because a lot of the reason we ride bikes is for the satisfaction of progressing ourselves. And so like if you have a different hobby like knitting, right? Maybe you want to knit when you're not riding the bike or something like that. But like all those other things you do you just learn them when you feel like it? No, Nick, you're frozen. Hello, whoever's watching right now. Um, we are streaming. I don't know if it's me messed up or Nick messed up, but oh, Thomas. Maybe it's Thomas here on Facebook. Oh, look, we got two Nicks. Hey, I was all I was like, oh no, Nick's gone, and then I just started talking about at random, I don't know, random stuff. But
This
yeah,
this
so
truck just pulled up, so this big truck probably blocking my Wi-Fi.
oh my God.
Um,
Uh,
no, like so I started playing the drums when I was like 9,
mhm.
um, and that's kind of when I got into like BMX racing as well. So it's like playing the drums. It was kind of like my parents were paying for the lessons, so it was like you're gonna play, you know.
Yeah,
And so I that was kind of like playing the drums was like what I did, and then I didn't ride bikes all through middle school. So like learning to play the drums, that was that, and then I was in band in school and stuff. So during school is when I learned all the music stuff, and then started playing guitar last year because of COVID.
okay.
Um, just had so much extra downtime, and like I really, I really only ride 2 3 times a week. So when it's COVID, like I had lots of days to sit down and learn. But like honestly, we've had the guitar in the van since June, and I've probably only played it 3 times lately. Like I was playing it a lot, and just lately, like I just have not had the
Yeah,
time. And it's like I do have the time, but sometimes I just rather not. Like mostly because if I start playing, then I'm into it for like a month of like avoiding other projects because I'll just
yeah.
sit and all of a sudden 2 hours goes by and I'm still playing. My fingers hurt, and so. But yeah, no. Otherwise, like I would say downtime is usually more of like productive time. I may even do like one day of video gaming, just because I never play video games. So sometimes when
Yeah,
if I'm hurt or sore, like super sore, I'm like, what, I'm gonna play video games today, and then I play for like an hour, and I'm like, this is boring. Like,
that's my go-to. Like this whole last week, um, since I haven't been doing too much, I'll play video games, and I hate it because I like hyper focus, and so then it's like 6 hours later, I'm like, oh, I got to do something.
yeah,
But okay, let's see. You just want to go in and we'll start talking about the why is it so hard to progress? You want to get
yeah,
into that?
yeah.
Cool.
Let's get
So
into it.
look at that cool thing on the screen.
Look
Um,
at that.
I guess we'll just talk about the three biggest reasons that we kind of came up with as to why most people struggle with progression. It's going to be fear, poor location or equipment, and then poor motivation. So we'll just, I guess, rant about each topic for a little bit and kind of see what happens. So, okay, so number one, we said fear. Did you ever get scared?
Am I ever not scared is a better question. Like,
You do it on purpose.
um, yeah. So hold on, someone's coming.
Yeah.
Let me just text them back real quick. You start saying something about it.
Oh my God. I'm scared all the time. And when I was younger, that wasn't really an issue, because I didn't have responsibilities. I don't know. I just go out and I thought getting hurt was cool. So we just go ride, try stuff. And, if you got hurt, you got hurt, whatever. And it was fun. If you can kind of harness the fear and challenge yourself, you can progress yourself a lot better. But that is a big issue that people have, and for me now, I don't think I embrace it as much because hospital bills are expensive. Getting hurt isn't fun. You're taking time away from work, and just overall, it's a bad experience if you get hurt. So when I was younger, it was something that I never really thought about. I just kind of send it and see what happened. And now that I'm older, I definitely consider it a little bit more.
Yeah. For me, it's like I think most things are scary. Um, once you do things a certain amount of times, your your experience kind of works into like eliminating like I wouldn't even say it's like an irrational fear. Like there's certain things that you'll do like like the other day I was trying this 450 out of this quarter pipe. It was like an alley oop 450 into like this spine landing,
Yeah.
and I was like, I was like, dude, that's scary because like you don't know if you're gonna clip your back wheel on the spine going up when you're like alley oop spinning. You don't know if you're gonna be able to like adjust from taking off at this angle to then landing at this angle, and like you just have like this like almost it's like an irrational fear. You're like, oh, like something could go wrong, but then once you do it once, with my experience level and like the amount of different things and features that I've done spins on, the first time I did it, it worked perfect because I just like naturally adapt. And then once I did it one time, I could do it the whole session, and it's like
Yeah.
it's not scary at that point. Or like when I threed that super gnarly box jump
Hmm.
at Chandler, the super steep one, it's like that's it's kind of scary to do the first time, but it's like okay, I have 360'd a bunch of things, and if I just let myself go a little bit deep, then I won't case, and I know I'll ride away from it if I land a little bit flat, and that's exactly what I did. And
Hmm.
then then you can kind of tone it back and fix it. But like when I was competing, it's like the first time you cork seven a new jump or double flip a new jump, yeah, you're obviously like, I hope this works, and it's scary. But then I feel like you get this point where I get this weird feeling in my stomach where like when I get that feeling, I know I've made the decision in my head to do it. So
Hmm.
then when I drop in, there's literally nothing that's going to stop me from doing it. And it's funny because like, a lot of times when you want to try something, like say you're riding dirt jumps and you want to try something new on the second jump, you're in your head, you're like, oh, that first jump has to be perfect, to do it.
Hmm.
And you'll always know when like at least I do, and I can recognize it in other people too. You can sense when someone is like committed. You can
Hmm.
sense when like
Definitely.
when they drop in that nothing is gonna stop them, and that's what happens to me. Is like I get this feeling in my gut where it's pretty much like there's nothing that could change the fact that I'm gonna do this right now,
Yeah.
and so I'll like case the jump before it and still do it because I
Because you're
just
you're locked
knew,
in.
yeah, and it'll usually work. Sometimes it
Yeah.
doesn't. Like when I was filming Wesley, me and Wes have a lot of similar mentalities when it comes to riding, and
Hmm.
I was filming him for his feast video, and he had just sevened the spine, and I knew he was gonna 1080 it, and he cased the quarter before, and right when he cased, I saw this like aggression. I was like, oh, he's in it. He's already
He's
in it.
still going.
And
Yeah.
he did it, and he tended it, and he landed it, and I laughed because the first thing I said was, "Bro, I knew you were committed. When you cased, I knew you were still gonna do it. Like I just knew it. Like, because most people would be like, oh, let me just go re-air the quarter, but then you're
Yeah.
out of it. So for me, like fear is kind of like one of those things you have to accept, and you have to like kind of work through it in your head, do whatever it takes for you to like overcome that. And sometimes it means literally not doing it and waiting until another time, because like as you gain more experience, something that you thought was scary
Yeah.
may not now be
It's
scary.
that
Like,
bad.
yeah, it's like, you know, throwing the Woodward box jump backwards is really scary. But then you throw that like that Chandler box or vice versa. Like if you can do one, you can do the
Yeah.
other. So sometimes it literally just takes like, if you're afraid to do something, just don't do it until you've done something else that relates to it, or you come back to it a couple months later and you look at it and you're like, oh, I could definitely do that. Like that's not that scary, because then you have more experience to build off of.
Hmm.
Whereas like just going into something cold turkey, it's kind of like why it's like, yeah, is doing a trick on the resi for the first time scary? Yes. But if you've done it enough times in the bag or the foam pit to pretty much know that your odds are really good, it's
Yeah.
less scary, because once you initiate that trick, then you know exactly what you need to be doing because you've done it enough times.
Well, you've given your
And
like your muscle memory a chance to kind of, or to form muscle memory on that. So if you have that, something to work into, whatever it may be, whether it's taking a scary trick from foam to the resi, or threeing a big box jump, you take that from threeing a little bit of a smaller box jump. The fear kind of goes away when you have your muscle memory, and you can hit the jump and kind of autopilot it. Or that's how it
yeah,
works for me. Is that how it works for you?
no, no, exactly. It's like there's certain tricks like that I'm there's certain tricks that I do that I can't really picture in my head that well, and
Mhm.
that's when it'll get scary, just because I'm very like not quite sure if it's
Yeah.
gonna work. But then the second I initiate that trick, I go, "Oh yeah, this is what this feels like."
Hmm.
Like you know I'm quite decent at doing flares. I literally
Yeah.
can't picture a flare in my head.
You
And
just kind of go for it.
if I try to think of a flare in my head, I it like weirds me out. But all I have to do is look at the quarter and be like, okay, I'm just gonna initiate like this. And then the second I initiate, everything's perfectly comfortable. I can see everything, and
Yeah.
that's how like Cork Seven always was. And it's kind of like that with like three down whip. Like there's certain tricks that I just try not to think about too much. I just go off of just the feeling of it. And to bring back the resi thing, when I was starting riding, like at Woodward, and
Hmm.
this happens with a lot of newer people that I see. It happens a lot, I think, especially with everyone's first flip. People have the ability, they'll flip in the bag a bunch of times, and I
Yeah.
just always I'm stressing. I'm like, now just do the exact same thing on the resi, and they haven't had that experience of like learning tricks from bag to resi, and learning to like trust themselves. And so the fear of like, now I'm not in the bag, overwhelms them, and a lot of people, they choke and they do something weird. And I've had that feeling with tricks before, like you choke when you get to the resi. But once, for years you've been learning tricks in a foam pit or an airbag, and then taking it to a real feature, you you start to really minimize those choking moments, because you've built up this repertoire of trusting yourself when you're
Hmm.
learning the trick. So it's like, now it's like, if I'm going to the resi or a real dirt jump for the first time after doing a trick in the bag, if you see me going to the resi or like a real dirt jump or something, I'm 100% confident at that point, and I'm trusting it, and I'm
Yeah.
just going to do everything, and it's usually 90% of the time going to work. There's sometimes where you have to make small adjustments, but yeah, you just have to overcome fear. It's really just by doing, and just like adding experience slowly but surely. And like I said, like things will get less scary because you'll have done
Yeah.
them more. When it goes wrong, you know how to get out of it. Like
Yeah.
and
What I was gonna say was, it's, I think, really important to kind of have an understanding of how to, what would be the right word? Like adapt your tricks or whatever you're trying. So like if you imagine, think back to your first air and you're pedaling at that quarter, and really you just kind of, you pedal at it, you pull back and you're like, wow, I did an air, right? And that was cool. But now when we do airs, we know exactly like how to adapt to smaller quarters, bigger quarters, because we've done it on so many different things. And so it's not as scary to crank full speed at a new quarter, a big quarter, now, because we've kind of adapted to it. I was going to touch on that with tail whips. Like I could probably tail whip whatever, I just pull back and I can tell by how I'm coming off of it if it's a steep quarter or a mellow bank, like how I have to adapt that whip. But when I do a flip, the very rare times I do a flip, I just pull back and hope for the best. Like I have no idea how to, I mean, I have basic idea of how to adapt it if the quarter's a little steeper or a little mellow, but it's really uncomfortable for me because I don't have that like confidence, I guess, in adapting it to different things. So is there a way, this random question, I guess, to kind of tie it together for people to build that, like to their first couple attempts on something, kind of build a confidence in it and learn how to adapt it before they actually send it? Kind of varies trick by trick, huh?
Yeah, I mean, if we're using like a flip example, the only way you get better at flips is by doing more of them. I mean, I've done when I was like when I was first learning flips on like dirt jumps, I went through months of because I could always flip fly out. Like flips was one of like the first things I learned to do.
Hmm.
Um, and I could flip fly out and I could flip fly out of most things. But flipping a dirt jump, because I had a fly out flip mentality, I always landed like this and cased.
Yeah.
So it was months to learn how to chill off the lip and come in nosedive
Nosedive.
and not
Uh-huh.
case. And like there was so many times where I'd try to flip something new and I'd loop out on the landing or I'd case like and you just unfortunately you have to like battle that a little bit. But also if I had at that time, if I had been only learning into the bag at Woodward, the far flip, and doing it to the resi, then I'd probably be
Mm.
a little bit more adaptive because I went to from fly out to dirt jumps. I had to figure things out kind of on my own. And if we're just using like a flip thing, I would say if someone's gonna like want to be as confident as possible going from the bag to the resi on their flip, I would say do it into the bag at multiple speeds. Like once you've got it down at the same speed you've been doing it,
Mm.
go faster and do it, and then go slower and do it because that'll force you to feel out like
Speed
a
it up
different,
or slow it down.
yeah, a little bit of a different pull and speeding it up and slowing it down. So then when you do it on the resi, yeah, do it at that same speed you were going when you were doing the good ones, but like it'll give you more confidence in being like, hey, I can adjust this flip if I need to.
Yeah.
But like as far as the biggest one probably is like doing your first bar spin. That's one of the scariest. Like, dude, throwing a bar spin and fully committing took me probably a
That's,
year. Like, I I was flipping dirt jumps before I could bar spin. Like,
yeah.
and maybe not really successfully flipping dirt jumps this time. I was still casing probably, but bar spins took me a long time, and I didn't know if it was because I was goofy footed and doing them goofy footed. Now I do bar spins both ways. Obviously, like once I learned to bar spin goofy footed, it would only took me like another month to learn it the other way because the other way was
Yeah.
really easy. Like first time I tried it, it went all the way around, and I was
Yeah.
like, oh, this is how it's supposed to be. But like actually throwing your first bar spin, I feel like you you literally have to just sack up the first time. And it's the same with jumping a new dirt jump. Like there's there's really, if you're jumping a new dirt jump and it's like if there's no smaller ones next to it to work your way up to it, you have to say either A, have I ever jumped anything this big and am I capable of it? And if you're
Yeah.
capable of it, then you can do it. If you don't think you're capable of it, just don't do it. But like jumping a new dirt jump for the first time, it's like you just have to do whatever in your head you can to jump it the one time. Because if you can jump it the one time, if you get close and you case, then immediately you know exactly what to do. You need to go a little bit faster. You know how it's going to feel. You got the first one out of the way. That's what we always say. Like,
Yeah.
got the first one out of the way. Like, if if you land it good, you can either pull off or go on to the next one. And then it's just kind of the same process over and over. It's like a lot of times I think people are more afraid of, like, they're afraid of the idea of crashing, and it's
Mhm.
usually never as bad as you'd think. Like,
No, you always think worst case scenario. You're
yeah,
like, I
like,
could die.
yeah, like, I when I flared across that channel, like, I was like, okay, this is fucking scary. I don't want to crash. And then I did crash, but then it's like, okay, well, that's probably the worst that's gonna happen, and I know I'll land it next
Mhm.
time. And then I did. Or like, Cork's having a new jump at a contest, like, you do it and you slide out, and then it's like it's not scary the second time because
Because you've
it's
already done
weird. It's weird because you think you'd be more scared, and it definitely, I guess, if you crash really, really, really hard, it could be a different story.
it.
But
Mhm.
you'd think like, oh, if you crashed, you're going to be more scared the next time. But it's not how it works because you're building off of your experience. And once you've crashed on it, you're like, oh, that was close. And it wasn't actually that scary to do. Yeah, I fell over, but it
Mhm.
wasn't actually that scary. Like, I know I could do it. It actually, like, to me, getting that first one out of the way and crashing, like, builds your confidence. So if you can just throw the bars and act.
Well, Nick is gone again. Um, damn, we gotta wait for him to come back because the way I was gonna tie this together was that that Chandler thing that he's talking about. Maybe it's me that's gone. Um, anyway, the Chandler gap he's talking about was, yeah, rip Nick. He'll be back. He'll be back in 1 minute. Also, big shout out to Andrew and Thomas hanging out with us in the live. Andrew, how you been? I've been reading your comments. I love it. But so we were at Chandler filming some bike school videos, and there's a gap, okay, a big gap. And Nick's like, I think I could flare that. And by the last day, he was pretty sure he was going to do it. He's like, here, film me. And I'm like, I don't know. It's not that I didn't necessarily doubt Nick, but I was like, that's a big gap, that's a big gap. And I haven't really ridden with him a whole lot. And so he pedaled at it, and you could tell when he dropped in, he's like, I'm gonna do this. And I don't know, when he was talking about earlier, you can tell when somebody's committed. He was definitely committed, and I was like, this is okay. Like, I'm ready. I got the phone. I'm like, okay, I'm ready to film this. And then you could tell as he started to approach it, kind of like um his what would you say, his focus kind of stopped. And so then he was like, hey, this is just going to be a test. And I'm like, okay, just a test, that's cool. But the second time he dropped in, and that it didn't change, it was full commit the whole time going up to it. And he sent it, and then he crashed. And it wasn't a bad, it looked bad to me. Like, I definitely wouldn't do it again. I'm going to see if it's on here. I want to show you real quick. um Oh yeah, here it is. Let me show you guys this crash. We're gonna stall and wait for Nick to pop back on here. But it was. I hope it's still here. Oh yeah. Here we go. I think I'm gonna play it on my phone and screen share it. That way you can actually see it. But okay, so that was the test air that I just watched. Do 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 do. Okay, this one. This one. Okay, hold on. I'm gonna share it to myself, and then I'll screen share it. You guys can watch it, and we'll see if Nick comes back. Okay, I got to share this other one too, the one that he landed. Um, because for me, and I was going to argue with him and say, hey, I think you are a rare case because most people don't like after that first crash. I think now you guys will have to tell me if I'm wrong here. But again, I don't think most normal people drop in a second time and say, hey, that was fun. I can't wait to do that again. I'm not scared anymore. Um, okay, hold on. Nick is back. Hey, could you hear me talking?
No, internet full on
Oh,
cut
you're
out.
gone.
Like
Yeah,
the
no,
little thing
Andrew's.
went, it went away from the Wi-Fi symbol to the little world with no internet, and I was like, I just texted you a picture of it. It says no internet, but it's back now.
Do you see Andrew's comment? Rip Nick.
Yeah, I just saw that post.
It's okay. It's okay. I just started rambling because what I wanted while you were here, I wanted to tie it back to that flare Chandler that you were talking about. What's up, Isaac? How you doing, man? Um, you were talking about the flare and the crash, and what I was going to say is that I think, arguably, I want everyone in the comments to let me know, but most normal people don't um, get back up after a crash and say, hey, oh my God, I can't wait to do that again. And so I think that's just an odd thing with you. I don't think that's a normal person thing, but maybe I'm just scared and that's how it is. But I pulled up your Chandler flare clips. I'm gonna share them and then kind of say, look, this is crazy that he got up the second time and did this. Okay, are you still there? Rip Nick part two. Okay, anyway, we're just gonna play this. Nick's gone. Um, can you guys hear this? So you could tell he juiced it. Like that was a big old crash. And again, so like I said, the first time, like we're gonna pop him back on the screen. Hello. Um, the first time you could tell, Nick, when you were rolling at it, I was like, you saw that determination, like that full commit, and then it kind of broke, and you're like, okay, this is just a test. But then this one you dropped in full commit, like I could tell, and then we had a little crash.
Ow.
And so what I like, it wasn't scary for you to do that again.
Um, no, I mean it was because I definitely knew that the same thing could happen.
Uh,
And when I was down, because I racked my head on the concrete on that one, and
yeah,
I even said like I'm not doing that again. And then it took me what like 30 seconds of standing
yeah,
up to be like, all right, let's do it again. And
actually,
it's mostly I know what it feels like to have a crash clip on your phone and just watch it over and over and over again and keep hoping that when you watch it, it changes to you landing it, and it never does. And so it's
damn,
kind of
that's
just like
deep.
this. I know we were leaving, and I was like, okay, if I don't do this again, I'm going to be really upset because by tomorrow, I'm going to be like, oh, if I would have just tried it again, I would have landed it. So I just took that mentality and I was like, just try it again, you're going to land it. And then I did. And honestly, the second time, I knew just to pull a little bit harder, and
Yeah.
yet I still thought I was going to do the same thing. But because I had pulled just a little harder, I just barely, landed on wheels instead of landing on wheels and then sliding out.
Mhm.
So, but it worked out. But yeah, that's kind of the thing is it's like, I hate, there's times definitely where you crash and you're like, your arm doesn't work anymore or something, and you're like, I can't do that again. Or it's
Physically
just,
can't do it again.
yeah, or it's just something that's like you literally don't care about and you fell doing something dumb and you're like, I don't need to do that again. Or if you fall 6, 7, 8 times on the same thing, it's really hard. But sometimes it just takes like it takes you almost saying like I'm done, I give up, and then you sit for like 30 seconds. You're like, no, no, this is it. And then usually that's when it happens is when
When
you've
it
like
works.
almost gave up, and then you just like have to overpower that.
So you had two reasons there for your to push away the fear, right? The one I love, it was deep. You're like, I know what it feels like to sit there and rewatch a crash clip, hoping that it'll change, but it never does. And so some
Yeah,
of that's like your pride, right? You want to do it again for your pride, so you're able to push the fear away. And then the other one is just because you've crashed on it, now you know what you need to change to make it work again. And
yeah.
so I have on screen here, I will in 5 seconds, the landed one, just because we can't leave you guys hanging. We got to show you the landed one. Oh my God, hold on. Do do do. I think it's this one. Okay, here we go. Oh yeah. So that
Woo!
was dope. Yeah, that's crazy. And so, if you would have just said, I crashed, it's not really worth it again, you wouldn't have that clip, and that would be pretty depressing.
Yeah, and like I said, that's kind of one of those things. Like we're out there filming a clip, and you crash on the first clip, and you're like, ah, I tried. I may as well do it again. Now,
Hmm.
if you're just like riding and you're not learning anything and you're not filming anything,
Yeah.
if you crash on something, there's definitely less pressure to do it again. You could just like move on to something else. You're like, oh, that was a dumb crash. But also at the same time, like I'm really big on like not ending anything on a bad note. You
Hmm.
know, like there's a difference. Like if it's a new trick and you tried it 7, 8 times and you just kept crashing, like just come back to it another time because you're still in the learning phase. But if it's
Yeah.
like something you can do and you crash, well, the next time you go to do that, the only thing that's in your mind is, oh, last time I did this, I crashed. And that's something really hard to
Mm.
battle because it's like it leaves you. That's kind of why when I was talking about the long breaks, like sometimes the long breaks almost like reset your like irrational fears because like you can start to build weird habits when you ride and think some tricks can start to get weird. And so if you just take a break, you almost like forget about like however it was getting weird and it like just resets a little bit. But otherwise, like, yeah, just don't end on a bad note. Always try to like end good.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I ranted about it at one point on, I don't know what it was, a different video, but like a lot of people, if you're ending the session defeated, that kind of discourages you to keep riding because you didn't necessarily have fun at the end of that, and puts you in a bad mood for the rest of the day. It's just overall, it's not very fun. Um, okay, so that was really good. Good information there about fear and kind of overcoming it. Um, we'll talk about the second thing, which is poor location and or poor equipment. For me, where I started riding, it was in a really small town. We had a skate park. The skate park was a quarter, a bank, and kind of like a box and a rail. That's it. That's it. That's all I had. And I had a couple of friends that would ride with me sometimes. They weren't really serious, but no like community and and nothing good to progress on. So I did what I could with that, but it wasn't until I moved to a bigger town with a better skate park and more people riding, that progress actually started to happen. Is that kind of the same for you? Or are you always blessed with good things to ride?
No, no, actually, where I am right now is where I grew up, and I was actually thinking about trying to film a video while I'm here,
Hmm.
at the skate park that I grew up riding, and it's terrible. It's the one that's the skate park that I knocked myself out doing that flip and looped out.
Yeah.
Um, and it's like yeah, it had multiple quarters and like a bowl and different things, but it's the worst thing ever. Like all the transitions are terrible. It's super slippery. Like everything is chunky. Like all the
Hmm.
things are chunky, so you get weird kick on things, and it's all short and super steep, and it's awful. It's god awful. But the biggest thing for me, it was like, yeah, that is where it's where I learned to 180. It's where I learned to 360. It's where I learned tail whips and bar spins. So like, and tuck no handers, toboggans. Like, I did learn those tricks there. And once I learned flips on a dirt jump, because the dirt jump is the first place I ever did a flip, and then I was able to do like fly out flips there and stuff. So like, it wasn't terrible. What made it terrible was the people that were there riding
Yeah.
were mostly just like like they were just not nice people. Like there was a couple of them that like somewhat liked me, but most of them thought they were like really good, really cool, and like weren't nice at all. And then especially
Hmm.
once I started doing flips, they were just so mean. It was just like, oh, they're just calling me
What?
names like,
It
oh, do a
changed.
backflip. Yeah, no. Oh, especially when
They
they
got
held a
worse.
contest. They held a little contest there, and I won. And dude, people were pissed. Dude, I would go back like even 5 years later, like 2016, 17,
Uh-huh.
and the same kids would still be sitting there and yelling like, "Do a backflip, pussy." And
It's
it's
the
like, bro,
same
I do.
people.
Yeah, and I'm like, I do double backflips. What are you even talking about? Do a backflip with my eyes closed, like, and it just I hated I hated it. So I got in the habit of riding like, early mornings when nobody was there.
Hmm.
So I think you can make not good stuff work if you
Yeah.
have the right mindset or the right people to like push you, because really that's what it comes down to is like, when you think of how good people can get riding a flat ledge or just like one single jump, like if you have the right people to push you or the right like self motivation. And I unfortunately wrote a lot out of like vengeance. It was like, I'm gonna get better so I can shove it in all these people's faces, and I did that for years.
All the
I
people at
couldn't
the skate park.
Yeah,
Were
I
they,
couldn't
wait,
wait.
real quick, were they bikers or skaters?
Bikers for sure.
They were bikers, but they were just like
The
nebulous about
skater
any
Yeah,
progression.
the skaters were nicer. Yeah, the skaters were nicer. And I think they've all come full circle now. I think they all,
Yeah.
none of them ride anymore. So I think, that they've all eventually like
Went to
I've
jail.
earned respect.
Uh,
But no, I for a long time I rode out of just vengeance and spite. Like it was just like I couldn't wait to like travel back home to that skate park just to show like the new tricks that I've learned and just hope that people were there watching. And that's not good. And I definitely like I went through a little plateau definitely when I like stopped caring about that, because I was like, oh, I don't need to ride to prove anything to them anymore. And then I plateaued a little bit because I was like, okay, well, what's my motivation now? And then it took a while, but then it's just like it's just a personal thing for me. Like that's what it is. Like it's like if I don't feel like doing things, I don't do them.
yeah.
And then when I started competing, it was like obviously you have contest motivation and like all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I just think definitely having the right group of people like to push you is the best.
Yeah. So even if you have like a poor, not the best bike and not the best skate park, you're still able to learn a good amount of fundamental or basic tricks, especially if you have someone who, well, I almost say believes in you. Like,
No, exactly. And
believes that you can get somewhere with it and then takes the time to help you through it.
yeah, because you got to think about it. You could have a really good bike and a really cool skate park, and if you're showing up and everyone's mean to you and like putting you down every time you're like struggling, it doesn't make you want to
Mhm.
even try,
Keep going.
because you're
Yeah.
just like worried about their opinions. So like it really, to me, any location and equipment can work as long as either you're a self motivated or b like you've got somebody like actually like
Good
helping
dudes.
you out. Like, and like you said, it's not always even about like telling you how to do everything. It's just like being there to support you
Hmm.
is important. Like, because I'm telling you, you could buy a Walmart bike and do a bar spin on it and a flip.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And you can learn, like I said, the basics on there. Um, Yeah, that's a really good point. I think when I was younger, we had the kids I rode with in high school or in middle school, and they were friends, and we were all kind of at the same level. There was one guy who was better than like he was really good, and he's the reason I got into it. But he's too cool, too cool to take the time for us, and so that was kind of um, I don't know. That's tough, You just want like that approval and that friendship, and then you don't get it. And and then, like I said, when I moved, we had a better skate park, but there was more people to ride with. And these guys, they were older than me, but they would take me on road trips and like buy me food and help me out. Like that older influence scared me. That holy shit.
that was
That
loud.
those older guys who would like support you and take you on, believe in you and do stuff for you really helped out more than the best bike did it for sure.
Yeah. So Isaac in the comments says, "What should I do if all I have to ride is flat?" So, if all you have to ride is flat, that's your opportunity to either a become a flatland rider, which is
Flat.
dope, but b like manuals, bunny hops, like hop 180s, hop bar spins. Like there's a lot of stuff there, and I don't ride flat really ever, so I'm terrible at it. But I'm telling you right now, like I used to do a lot of like commercial auditions and stuff, BMX or not. And whenever I showed up for a BMX, they needed somebody who could like do tricks and stuff. And the audition was always flat ground. Whether they wanted you to ride a ramp in the commercial or not didn't matter. your audition was on flat ground, and
It
I'm
was
like, what
flat.
am I supposed to do here? I can do a hang five, and I can do a 180 and a hop three, but like, and so like there's a lot of fundamental stuff that you can learn on flat, but then also like you may think that all you have to ride is flat, but you may have to either wait until you're old enough to drive or find people that are willing to take you to a skate park. Like find your nearest place. Like, a lot of people would say like all I have is flat. That might be all that's in the neighborhood, but in town or further from your house, you might have ledges, you might have stair sets or banks, or like there's a lot of stuff like lingering around, or you may have a field somewhere where you can build a jump. You might have to build it, but like I would say, work on all that flat stuff and build yourself a ramp, a ledge, a rail, or like I said, find a way on weekends to make your way to the skate park. Like that's pretty much my biggest thing. Is it's like if you want to make it happen, you make it happen. Brett Banasewicz grew up with the smallest, most dinky little skate park ever, and that's all he rode. And then, he convinced his parents to take him like 3 hours away was the nearest like actual nice park. And so like on weekends they would go there for a day, and he became Brett Banasewicz. And it's
That
like,
goes back to that support. Like that was huge. If his parents wouldn't have done that for him,
oh, he would have had nothing.
arguably nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Cool. Good question, Isaac. And Andrew, I just wanted to touch on that because Andrew says you can get real creative with the sidewalk, and Nick already said, but you've got those fundamentals are super important. And I laugh because I just imagine you going to an audition and they're like, "Oh yeah, we want a bike rider," and then they're like, "What can you do?" And you're like, "Well, I could do double flip, 360 down whip, all this stuff." They're like, "No, no, but like right here." And you're like, "What? You're not giving me anything to work with."
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not a break dancer. I can't just throw down in the parking lot here. Like Jesus.
That's hilarious. Okay, so we'll wrap it up, but real quick, we already talked about motivation, but
Yeah, yeah.
that's number three, poor motivation. On that, how do you overcome that? Like ride for the right reasons, obviously,
Yeah.
whether
No, yeah,
find
ride
out
for the right
what
reasons.
motivates you and
Yeah.
and go for it.
And I'm never going to recommend riding out of spite, but it worked for me. It did work for me. Like I'm never going to do that, but like sometimes you got to find out what makes you angry, and like get out that anger in riding, and like or you're just there having a good time. To me, like if I put in music, like music, it's not really I mean, it is a motivating thing because like sometimes like when I'm listening to music, I'll like envision video parts of myself like that haven't happened yet, and I'm like, oh, that would be kind of sick, and I start
Oh,
thinking of
that's
things.
cool.
But then when I'm writing, like a lot of times music, if I'm focusing on like the lyrics or the beat of the song, I'm less afraid because I'm not thinking about other things. Like for me, like the best thing I can do when I drop in for a contest run is literally be singing the song out loud. Like I'll be dancing and singing at the top, ready to drop in, and then I just like literally just go. Because like if it's just getting yourself in the right mindset, which yeah.
I think like to me that sounds like the right motivation is just having fun on your bike, right? And when
Yeah.
you're dancing, singing before the contest, you're having fun, and so then you're just fusing that to the bike. It's not about necessarily going pro. Like those are great things that happen, but if you have the right motivation, like you're riding because you genuinely love it and you genuinely just want to have fun on your bike, I think everything else follows. You know, like yeah, a lot of people go pro and might not necessarily love the sport anymore. They don't have fun with it anymore because they had the wrong motivation going into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Cool. All right. Well, that was fun.
Cool.
Hopefully, you guys
Yeah.
learned a couple of things. And Nick wanted to talk about Instagram.
Oh yeah. So I think some of you guys already followed it, but we do have an official bike school Instagram now. It is at bike school official. It's down on. Oh, what? Which
It's
direction
somewhere.
is that? Oh, it's that way. Because when on
You
my
can't
computer
get to it, huh? I can
on
get
my
to
computer screen, it's actually this way. But when I'm pointing, I'm the wrong direction.
it.
I don't
Yeah,
I don't
so
understand. Am I mirrored? I
I don't
don't.
know. I'm pointing to
No,
the right right now, but on the
that's
screen
what
I'm
it is.
pointing to the left.
I'm not mirrored. I'm not mirrored. That was really
Right here.
confusing
Hold on.
because
There.
it's right.
Can you point to it now?
Yeah, point straight. It's
Yeah,
right
there you go.
there.
It's right there.
It's right there. Oh, that's
But
really difficult. Um, anyways, I digress. Um, but yeah, so make sure you go follow that. We'll be posting stuff on there. Don't know what yet, but
just
we'll
kind of
post
like
stuff.
probably more like behind the scenes insight up to
Yeah,
what we've got going on with the channel. And again, big shout out to everyone who subscribed to the channel. I think it's growing faster than we expected. I expected
yeah,
anyway.
yeah. No,
And
it's gonna be dope. We've got a lot of content coming out, and we're always gonna create new content. We'll do lives on Monday, and we will have new videos on Fridays. And also this Friday, after Thanksgiving, is Black Friday. And
oh,
if bike school is something you are interested in joining, we will be having a deal on Black Friday. I'm not going to tell you what it is yet, but
it's a
there
big
will be
scoop.
one. So make sure you look out for that. I know some of you guys are already in bike school, so
Yeah, I saw Thomas and Andrew.
yeah.
They're
And
in bike
Miles is in
school.
there. Yeah,
Miles, yeah. So we got a lot of our
yeah,
members here. If you guys want to be cool like those guys that we just mentioned, stay tuned for the Black Friday deal. It's pretty good. We put a lot of thought into it, but yeah, we'll tell you on Friday.
yeah. So that'll be cool. But otherwise, yeah. Thanks for coming to the live, guys. And
Yep.
go watch my new video. It's on my channel.
Oh
It's called
yes,
"Enjoy the Journey." Go check it out. I put it out yesterday. It's pretty
it's a
dope.
good video. Um, yeah, cool guys. All right. Well, hey, happy holidays. Stay safe. Have fun with your families. And as always, thanks for hanging out with us.